Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Pediatric Grand Rounds, as well as our 9th annual Adolescent Health Research Symposium. I'm Liz Miller. I'm the incredible privilege of being the Director of Adolescent and Young Adult Health here at Children's Hospital, and I'm excited to kick off our annual Adolescent Health Research Symposium with an incredible and unique Grand Rounds. And I hope that each of you will take many lessons from the conversation that you are about to witness this morning. So I want to begin first by thanking the many people on the planning committee who have been a part of preparing for this day where we are lifting up youth disability experience. Our planning committee include Dr. Amy Haltrow, Christy Troutman from the FISA Foundation, our Janice Korn, Extraordinary Executive Assistant for the Division of Adolescent Medicine, Rosie Benford, Libby Powers, Lisbeth Guzik, Jennifer Baldwin, Tal Levin-Decanini, and Valerie Carr-Copeland. And so we have a very multidisciplinary planning committee across multiple backgrounds. And in the you are also, before I introduce the Grand Round speaker, also going to see a discussion with 3 of our Change members. The Change program, Children's Hospital Advisory Network for Guidance and Empowerment, has been in existence for about 9 years, started initially by Dr. Jonathan Pletcher, one of our former faculty in the division. And one of the early Change members, Libby Powers, will be moderating our discussion session after Grand Rounds today. So the continuity is wonderful. And I want to thank Joseph Shin, Rochelle de Blasio, and Angelo LaFortune, our 3 Change members who are going to engage in a follow-up discussion with Alice Wong. So it is an incredible pleasure and just distinct honor and privilege for me to introduce Alice Wong to you. Alice is a disability rights activist. She's based in San Francisco, California. And one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that we're able to bring in a recording from Alice so that Alice did not have to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So Alice is the founder and project coordinator of the Disability Visibility Project. This is a project collecting oral histories of people with disabilities in the US, run in coordination with StoryCorps. And it is really the Disability Visibility Project that we wanted to bring to you this morning as a way to set the stage as we think about the young people we serve and the young people who are part of our teams with disability, and to really take a moment to listen to their experiences. So with that, Colleen, could you please run the video?
Shelter Radio. Hi, my name is Alice Wong, and I am coming to you from San Francisco, California. And I have been living basically at home, sheltering in place since March of last year, so almost a full year now. I have not left my home once, except last October for a flu shot. And that's because I am high risk, and like a lot of disabled or chronically ill people and people who are immunocompromised. So I'm 46 years old. I have 2 sisters. I was born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I am basically a writer, activist, podcaster, troublemaker, etc., etc. It's really excited to talk with you all today and share a little bit about myself. So some of you have noticed I'm wearing a mask over my nose. It is attached to this tube, which is connected to a machine called a BiPAP. And a BiPAP is a form of non-invasive ventilation. So I wear this machine pretty much almost all day, and all night. And it really gives me energy and helps me breathe because my diaphragm is too weak to push the air in and out of my lungs. I was born with a neuromuscular disability, and that means that it's a progressive disease. Basically, all of my muscles would get weaker over time. When I was young and born, when I was little, I could walk, and around the age of 6 or 7, I had more difficulty walking and had to use a walker, and then a manual chair, and then basically a power chair full time by the time I was in 3rd grade. So I always knew I was disabled from the very beginning. Another thing I always knew was that I am a disabled person living in a non-disabled world. I really had to learn how to advocate for myself at a very early age with adults. With doctors and with teachers in particular. I had to grow up really fast, maybe like a lot of you. And, that's not to say easy, but I think it made me who I am today. And I really want to change much of that, even though there were clearly things I wish I didn't have to experience. But it's really made me, I think, a lot more perceptive, a lot more aware of the world, and a really good communicator. Because I can sense what works and what doesn't. In particular, I have a lot of memories about interacting with doctors, going to the hospital for surgeries. And, it's really weird because I have really fond memories of being at a children's hospital. I felt really cared for. I think there's something really special about children's hospitals. First of all, it was a place where there were a lot of other kids. Like myself, it was not a big deal. It felt like a very, at the time, much more accessible place than a lot of other places I went as a kid. And I never felt out of place. I think I mentioned that earlier, but that was the thing. And I always felt especially when I go to clinic visits or I have to get out of school, go see the doctor, I would always get soft serve at the cafeteria afterwards. It was always kind of a little getaway, even though it was clearly not for fun things either. But I always felt like that was another kind of world that was kind of made for me. Later on in high school, I ended up volunteering at my local children's hospital, which was in Indianapolis, called Riley's Children's Hospital. And for any of the healthcare providers who are watching this video, I think my main kind of advice for dealing with patients, especially younger patients with disabilities and chronic illnesses, is to try to allow as much space for young people to say no and to express anger. I think one of the things that I felt like I couldn't do with a lot of adults in my life is really express the frustration and the anger I felt at the world. And not really because of my disability, even though that's part of it, but it's really the way other people treated me. They treated me like a baby, or they were, bullies. But that really was a source of my anger because I didn't understand why they were doing it. Why they didn't see me as me. And I think, for healthcare providers, it's really important to give as much autonomy as possible and choice for young patients, and to also be really honest with young patients, to be realistic, because kids are not, kids really know the truth, and I think kids want the truth. At least I did. So as I got older, I learned to advocate for myself, talk to teachers, talk to all kinds of authority figures, and, even strangers, right? Because sometimes you need help, but you have to ask for help. Sometimes you need to get information. Sometimes you just need to get around. And, as I got older, I realized, yeah, what this is do for others, for the future. It would be as I kind of got a little older, was a teenager, was a young adult, I realized that self-advocacy is great, but really, I think what will last, that will really make change, is systemic advocacy. Changing the way things are organized, the way that the world sees others, the way the world treat others, whether that's policies, practices, whether that's changing the culture. I think that's all kind of part of the work, at least for me as an advocate. And, I tend to use the word activist more than an advocate because sometimes being an activist means not being nice, not being grateful, not being patient. And to me, activist is somebody that's not afraid to hold people accountable. I think advocacy is very important, and I think it's all really related, but I tend to view myself as an activist and in all kinds of ways. Not just about disability issues, but about politics and about all kinds of things, culture, diversity, things like that. That's really things that I want to see improved in the world. And, you may have lots of other passions, right? Maybe it's climate change, maybe it's about infrastructure, public transit. Maybe it's about gender rights. Maybe it's about reproductive freedom. Whatever you have a passion for, you can be an activist in it. So there are no rules, and there are no, things that you have to be an advocate for. Just because you have to have a disability or chronic illness. So this is a paper cup. As you see, I am pausing because every once in a while, when I talk, I build up saliva. And sometimes if I talk too long or too fast, I don't want to choke. So I just put it in this paper cup. It makes it a lot easier, and also it's less work to swallow my saliva. So that's a little bit of an explanation. But for me, I don't believe that's, being an activist that happens overnight. As I said earlier, I'm 46 and I still feel like I'm learning. It's really gradual in what I've done over the years. And for a long time, I didn't even think of calling myself as an activist because a lot of my work takes place on the internet. I'm not at a march, I'm not at a rally, I don't travel, I don't organize conferences. But I think, no matter what you're passionate about, advocacy or, activism, you look really different. There should be lots of different ways you can be an activist. You can even just have a conversation with a friend. That's actually activism if you're talking to them about something that you care about, like education, like disability rights, like healthcare, access, things like that. For me, storytelling is one of the tools I have as an activist. I think, being able to share my lived experiences and perspectives is really important, and especially for other disabled people as well, because let's face it, there still really isn't that much representation, like, let's say in popular culture. Things are getting better, but it's not really great. I mean, I want to see us everywhere. I want to see us in every position. I want to see, people in Congress, engineers, scientists, artists, just we need to be everywhere and have a place at the table and to be able to make decisions. Because there's that famous phrase, nothing about us without us. And I think for a long time, even now still, there's a lot of things about disability, but they often don't actually include disabled people. So, one of the things that kind of bothered me about 7 years ago was kind of a lack of disability history. They don't teach it in high school. You don't see that many books about it or stories about it. So I created a disability visibility project in 2014. And that was mostly an oral history campaign to encourage disabled people to tell their own stories, because this was in the lead up to the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I wanted this chance to really let people know that you don't have to be famous to be part of history. We're all part of history. We're all making history all the time. And every story matters. And sometimes it's the little stuff that's really meaningful. So that's kind of launched in 2014. And then it kind of expanded. DVP is now an online community. So I have a podcast, I have a blog, I have guest writers who are disabled by essays on my blog. I do all kinds of things like Twitter chats. And last year I came out with an anthology of my own called Disability, Visibility, First Person Stories of the 21st Century. And this is kind of a snapshot of stories by disabled people from the year 2000 to 2019. And for me, that's something that gave me a lot of joy. And I hope it gives people a lot of joy as well to not only see themselves, but for other people who are not disabled to really get a little sense of our world and all of our talents, all of the joy, the beauty, the innovation, the adaptation that we do, just that's really kind of ingenious, and everything that's kind of the things that we care about. So that's been a really cool thing that I did last year that took actually, a year and a half. So it was a real labor of love. So that's about it in terms of some of my thoughts about advocacy in terms of there is no kind of one way, and you should make it work for you. Right now, I stopped flying, I stopped traveling years ago. I basically worked from home for the last 15 years, and I'm still very much involved and engaged and super active. So there's just so many ways to do what you want to do. And I don't want anybody to feel like that they have to do it one way. So I think that's my kind of recruiting message. And I look forward to learning from all of you because I think you are the next generation and we have a lot to learn from each other. So, hey everyone, my name is Alice Wong. I'm coming here from zooming in from San Francisco. I'm in my mid 40s. I'm a disabled activist, writer, and podcaster. I'm the founder of the Disability Visibility Project, which is an online community dedicated to creating, sharing, and amplifying disability media culture. You can find my website at disabilityvisibilityproject.com. And I'm happy to be in conversation with you all today. Rochelle, do you want to go first? Did Angelo and then Joseph? Joseph say hello.
Sure. So hi everyone, I'm Rochelle. I've been a change member for I guess 6 years now, and very glad to be here today. And I guess right now I'm working at the University of Pittsburgh, and yeah, and I really enjoyed your video, Alice. And I guess just to start things off, I don't know if we want to do questions now or at the end of introductions.
Maybe after introductions.
Okay, sounds good.
So Angelo, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Angelo. I've been a change member about maybe 4 to 5 years right now. I'm currently in school. Trying to get some get a degree in material management, some sort.
Great. How about you, Joseph?
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a current junior at the University of Pittsburgh studying computational biology. I've been a change member for a little over a year now, I believe. And I'm excited to talk to Alice and our fellow change members about the video today.
Wonderful. So I guess, I could have just made a video for you all a few weeks ago. I just, talked a little bit about my experiences and just interactions with healthcare professionals and just kind of learning to be an advocate and adulting, which is, part of the process of any young person who's kind of coming into their own. So super curious about your questions or thoughts or just feedback. So yeah, anybody who wants to ask first, go ahead.
I can go first. So when I was watching the video, I think I found it very inspiring how you said like anybody can be an advocate as long as you find something to like fight for. So I know you briefly mentioned this in the video, but like what exactly was like the aha moment for you where you realized advocacy is what you had a passion for?
Well, I think this is for me, speaking for myself only, I was born with my disability. And I grew up always doing that, I was a little different, or really different. And I never understood why, sometimes people would treat me a different way, or they saw me in a different way, or they had, let's say, lowered expectations of me. Like that, I just never understood. And I think that's kind of the aha moments where, especially in school, right? Like teachers, adults around me didn't see me the way I saw myself. So then I realized, okay, like, there's something going on here. And it really frustrated me as a young person because I couldn't really articulate or, figure out why that was. So I think that's kind of what led me to becoming an advocate first for myself, right? Like just, getting my needs met, just making sure that people understood me. But then, as I got older, in high school and in college, I realized it's much more than just about myself. It's about all of us. And that's, when I first started figuring out, like, how do we make change that is more lasting? And I think for me, it's been being part of a community and understanding that we're all kind of connected, and that if we all kind of work towards different kinds of goals together, it's going to make a bigger difference. So you can do both things at once, right? Like you can fight for yourself in your individual situations with your friends and your family, or just your workplace or your school. But you also branch out and do, broader things too if you want. But again, I don't want any young person to feel like they have to, because they have a disability or that they have a chronic illness. People should be free to do whatever they want to do. And while it does seem unfair that, right now in our society, it's still not accessible. It's still not really built for us. But I don't want people to feel like they have to be an advocate. People should really just have the freedom to be whoever they want. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. Thank you so much.
What's your biggest accomplishment?
I would say, in a very simplistic answer, I would say being alive right now To be honest, right? Like, I'm in my mid-40s, which feels like a dinosaur, I'm sure, compared to all of you. But, just to be safe and alive during this pandemic, I think a lot of us, I'm not assuming, but I'm high risk. So, not all disabled people are high risk. But I, in particular, I have a neuromuscular disability. As you can see, I'm wearing a mask over my nose. It's connected to a ventilator, a machine called a BiPAP. So I am somebody who is super high risk. And, just to stay safe, I've been sheltering at home since March of last year. I only went out once this whole time. So this whole year, since last March, I've only been out once in October to get my flu shots. So I'm pretty proud of being, alive and hopefully getting my vaccine soon. Fingers crossed, but I'm proud of that. But I'm also proud of, the creating the disability visibility projects, which I mentioned in my introduction. And it's basically a website and a podcast and a way to tell stories, by disabled people. And I guess, coming out with my book, I have a book out last year called Disability Visibility, First Person Stories of the 21st Century. And it's an anthology featuring stories by disabled people from this, 2020. So that's something very exciting. And, my first major book, so that was kind of a big deal.
Great, thank you.
Oh, thanks for asking.
Hi, Alice. So you mentioned you started the Disability Visibility Project and also your book. And I was wondering, did you face any challenges or any obstacles in creating those? Because I can't even imagine how to begin doing that myself.
Well, I was saying first with the Disability Visibility Project, I didn't really know much about what I was trying to do. Like, I just felt like I needed to stretch myself and do something new and challenging. One thing that prompted me to create it is that, where are our stories? Just I wanted more for all of us. So, as just one person, I thought, okay, I just start a website and just, play around and just see, what I could do. It's just one effort as part of many efforts. But I definitely want more disability representation. I want to see more stories written and created by us. And I wanted a way to highlight all the amazing things that are, part of our community. So, using a website, publishing essays by disabled people, being on social media. So, like, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, try to create community that way. And later on, I dabbled into podcasting. There's another way to tell stories, which I love. It's really fun. But these are just different things that, I didn't have a grand plan. This is all very gradual, but it's been really fun. And it's been this wonderful kind of adventure. And I think that's really great too, is that these things all kind of grow and get stronger. And it feels like people really resonate with it, like they enjoy it. It feels like something that they want, that they need. So that's been really wonderful to hear. I know that some teachers have been using my podcast for their classes, like they're citing. So like that's like super cool. Like I didn't even realize that. So like that was really exciting. This week I have a new episode that might be of interest to you all. It's an interview with a disabled student at UC Berkeley, and it's all about student activism. So that might be of interest too. I'm gonna drop it in the chat box, but yeah, I think this is interviewing people, talking to people, learning about people is really what gives me joy. The challenge with the book that I edited last year, it was mostly about, I guess, learning, working with a publisher, like that was new. That's a whole new world. And editing, 37 different pieces. So that was a lot. And it's also about kind of pulling together things. So like, working with all kinds of people and just, keeping everything organized. I think that was a challenge, but I'm really, I'm really excited that the anthology has a real range of stories and a real diverse kind of group of people. Because I think, again, as you all know, there's so much diversity within our community that's not really truly represented just yet. So I do hope the book is going to be kind of a starting point, for a lot of non-disabled people who just maybe this is the first time they've ever really dove in to understand our experiences. And then, that might just be like the beginning. And I also hope that disabled people who read this too also learn new things and feel like they feel seen and understood. That's my hope too. And, since this video might be shown at the Grand Rounds, I want to say that I have a story with a disabled doctor. Her name is Dr. Diana Tejas. And she wrote this beautiful essay about she's somebody who has cancer. And she's a doctor. And she wrote about her experiences as both a patient and a doctor. And that to me was just one of my favorite essays that I highly recommend.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions, or just this time is yours? So just jump in.
Have you ever faced any criticism?
About anything, or just anything, or just in particular?
About your disability? Like, have people make any mean comment to you or?
Oh yes, I mean clearly, like this is part of, unfortunately, the experience of being disabled, right? Like people are just so ignorant. They're insensitive, especially as a child, right? Like just for me, I don't know if any of you grew up disabled, but that was a big part of my experience, right? Just I would say, definitely some bullying, but also just people kind of excluding me, not wanting to hang out with me, not, just leaving me out. I think that's sometimes the most painful aspect, just not being asked to things. people see me, I don't want to be part of it. Or, oh, it's just too much work. Right? Like, it's just, why bother, you know? Yeah, so, definitely, I struggled, I think, making good friends, friends that care about me, that don't feel sorry for me, right? Like, I don't want people to feel like they have to be my friend, or like, oh, look at this poor girl. Like, she's so sad and lonely. Like, I don't want to be friends with you if you think of me that way. So that's been really tough, I think. And yeah, I think also adults not being very nice. Doctors, including doctors, and adults who are supposed to care about us. I think that's been very disappointing. But I think it's also made me grow up really fast. Like, I think that's been one of my things where, it was something that forced me to, be smarter about what's to be real, right? Like, about adults and about the world that we live in. And it forced me to grow up. It forced me to figure out how to get what I need, how to talk to people, really like talk to adults, to be totally to be treated me like a baby which is really rude, right? So I really learned how to like talk back, and I learned to like say, no, like this is not right, or things like that. Just had to develop ways to be really honest and really, confrontational. Because sometimes I do think, there's only so many ways to be nice and polite. But sometimes you absolutely have to like fight for yourself. And sometimes change isn't created by being nice and polite. That's my experience, because people don't get it. People will not get it until you make it very plain and very clear how wrong something is, or how hurtful they are, and what you feel like is the solution, right? That you expect a solution. You expect them to do better. And that's hard, right? Because it's putting yourself out there. But these are things that we all kind of, to work up to with baby steps. It is scary. It is scary to speak up for yourself. But I think for any young person that, once you start doing that, you can really see how people will change. They're going to see you differently when you really are honest. I think, and if they don't get it, that's their loss, Yep. And I think you should always try to feel proud of yourself when you're being truthful and speaking your truth. I know that's easy to say, it's scary, but it's really worth it when you are able and feel ready to do that. So I want to ask you all, what was scary? Did you all ever have a scary moment, or feel like you had to like really kind of speak your truth to power in any situation? Like, I know a lot of situations are awkward, but did you all face any challenges, whether it's with your friends or family or other situations, whether, anything that you all want to share?
I don't know if this is really what you're asking for, but like not right now, but when I was growing up, when I was in like elementary school, middle school, um, like I faced a bit of racial discrimination from my peers at school, and this is because there weren't. I'm Asian, and there weren't that many of the Asian population um, in the neighborhoods that I lived in my school district wasn't that high. So I was a very small minority of, I guess, non-white students at our school, and because of that, I guess not so much in high school, but in elementary school, middle school, when the kids are younger and more immature, they would make some racial jokes, racial slurs, and that didn't make me feel too comfortable. But of course, like it's not completely dismissible because of their immaturity, but as they grew older, the relationships got better, and I guess people became more aware of what they should say and what they should not say. So that was definitely like observing that change was definitely a pretty meaningful experience for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think, sometimes it's a combination of racism and ableism. People are just really uneducated on a lot of things. I know that people have made jokes and they made an assumption about me. Like, there's this whole thing with Asians and Asian Americans, like this thing called the bottle minority myth. People just assume like, oh, you're good at math, or just like, these really bizarre things. And I'm just like, no, we're not all alike. And no, like, we're not all super talented or smart or middle class. Like, there's a lot of us that struggle. And I think there's, some people think it's a compliment, right? They think, oh, how is this bad? I'm like, it's bad because you're glossing over a very huge community that's very different, and you can't do that. And that there's more than just Chinese, Korean, and Japanese people. Like, there's so many Asian Americans, and I think that's so many parallels I see with the disability community, right? Like, there's so much more to disability that's what's apparent, right? Like, there's, I think, within disability representation, when you think about, wheelchair users, people are blind, people are deaf, just, but we forget that there's a lot of people who are not apparently disabled, people with mental illness, people with learning disabilities, people with chronic illness. So, that's another aspect of, people who are just not, familiar. And I think, all we could do is share where we're coming from. And hopefully people realize, like, there's so much more, and that if people are curious or worried about saying the wrong thing, that they should just ask, just say, like, what you don't know, and people will tell you, right? I mean, that's what I hope people would do. Like, if they're nervous about meeting me or hanging out with you for the first time, just ask and I'll tell you. Just go from there.
Thank you. That was really good advice.
Yeah.
Actually, kind of going off of that, Alice. So I'm an individual with a complex care needs, with a chronic condition where I have a visual field deficit. And kind of going back to your original question about like any obstacles we faced or anything, back when I was 16 years old, and I at this point didn't really know how my visual field deficit would affect my life. I went to go test for a driver's permit, and the individual at the DMV office basically told me, no, you're not able to drive, you don't have enough peripheral vision. Whereas my doctors growing up as a child never really alerted me to, or I guess warned me that this might happen. And that's kind of what got me into, got me involved with change in the transition care aspect of healthcare. But just, yeah, going back to that, a lot of my peers kind of assumed that I was just lazy because my condition isn't physically apparent, right? You can't tell my visual field just by looking at me. And so a lot of my peers thought I was lazy, or that I would just, for some reason, wanted to take advantage of other people to give me rides home, didn't want to put the effort into learning. And so that was growing up in high school. That was pretty difficult for me to deal with. It did get better as we got older, kind of going back to Joseph's experience. But yeah, growing up, that was definitely a challenge for me.
Yeah, and I think that's also the real kind of tension, right? Like if you have non-apparent disabilities or any kind of disability, like how much do you explain and how much do you want to share? Because really, people shouldn't have to share everything about their diagnosis or their health conditions in order for people to get it, right? Like that's the tough part, right? Like you should have the right to privacy and not have to give every little detail so that people don't assume that you're taking advantage or being lazy. And I think that's the hard part too, right? Like as an individual, you're gonna have to like kind of gauge that situation. And sometimes within certain situations, you do have to do that, give more details. But other times it's like, dude, just like, don't be such a jerk. Like just, this is what I did, right? Like just, so I think there are these kind of constant situations where you have to kind of figure stuff out. It's all situational. And that is hard when you're a teenager and just you yourself are not sure either. There's a lot of things that are in flux, right? Like they're not for sure, like forever. So even you yourself may not know if this is gonna be something forever. So like that's tough. So I know how you feel. And it is hard. It is painful when people kind of just make these assumptions. But sometimes it's like there's only so much control you have on how people perceive you. Sometimes it's just like, sometimes I'm just like, oh, whatever. But just, like these people are just like, they're gonna do what they do. And sometimes I see that as a great kind of filter. Like these are the people that maybe aren't worth my time sometimes. Like just, and it's also a great kind of side of like who people really are. Like your friends who are really there for you. Those are the ones that like who get it. Like those are the people that you wanna stick with. But it's hard. It is totally hard. Yeah. I'll just open it up to everyone else, just like any other thoughts or questions or just anything about the future. Like, what are you all excited about as hopefully we one day come out of this pandemic. Like, what are you looking forward to?
Um, should I go?
Yeah, sure thing, Angela.
I'm just hoping that keep my like I can keep myself safe throughout this pandemic, and I'm hoping to get vaccinated soon, but I don't know how soon though, but I'm hoping I can get
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I hope so too. I think that's my hope too. I'm not vaccinated yet, so like, I'm still nervous, but I do think that's, hopefully, I think this rollout in our country has been
Mm-hmm.
really messed up. So, hopefully, as there's more supply, states will do the right thing. But yeah, I hope that's all of us stay safe and healthy as well.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Joseph and Rochelle? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I can go first. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually looking forward to in-person classes because I'm a current junior in college, but due to the pandemic, I think at the second half of my second semester of sophomore year, we switched to online learning. So it's been about a year now, and it's been like day after day just staring at my Zoom screen, barely interacting with my peers and my instructor. So I think some in-person stuff with like a full classroom, friends sitting next to me, like that's an experience I want to have again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know it's funny that like people are eager to get back to school, but I think there is something about the dynamic of being around people, whether it's school or not. It's really fun.
It makes the learning experience a lot more enjoyable rather than just sitting by myself in my basement staring at my laptop.
Yeah, I think everybody is really tired of Zoom. Even
Yeah,
though I am, I am thankful that we are together by Zoom. So yeah,
technology definitely helps.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. How about
I
you?
just think you. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I just think you learn more like when you're with other people.
Yeah, and I think we can
Like,
have, and I think this pandemic has showed us there's more than one way. So that
mm-hmm.
for those who need the access, that remote access is still an option. Because for example, I wouldn't be able to go to Pittsburgh to be with you all. So this is a great way for us to connect.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Rochelle?
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to later this summer starting medical school.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be in my first year, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But especially because I guess I would be entering right, hopefully, as the pandemic is starting to get sorted out. And I think that, experiencing this pandemic firsthand, as we all are, has really brought to light different issues in healthcare, medicine, public health. And I think that this is going to be a really, really exciting time to join the field and really help me realize like the importance of what I learn and how I can best serve patients. And so I'm really looking forward to that and kind of, hopefully getting through this pandemic soon, hopefully.
Yeah, that's you're gonna be with all kinds of you're gonna bring so many of your own lived experiences to the profession, and I think we need more doctors who are disabled or have chronic illnesses or other health conditions. They really are gonna make medicine better, and I'm just so excited about that for you. And, you know, I'm personally excited to like one day just go to a cafe, have some coffee, and just people watch, just hang out. I'm looking forward to that. So we're not alone in this. So that's wonderful.
Wonderful, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this Grand Rounds, a discussion with Alice Wong and 3 of our change members, Angelo, Joseph, and Rochelle. In the chat is the link to the Zoom, which is actually the Zoom for our symposium. You're welcome to stay for as much as you can, and we will take questions and reflections in the group discussion, and will be facilitated by Joelle Sawaika and Libby Powers. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning.